Hey, good morning, everybody. How are you? It is Thursday, April 10th, about a half hour before the opening bell, the pre birthday celebration, which is tomorrow. But enough about all that. What about that pump yesterday? We had the news Mr. Donald Trump put a pause on the tariffs and sent the market on a rippity dippity doodah. So, wanted to talk about the GameStop flow. We saw that $25 gamma level. We had talked about that during those videos earlier this week as a level with high open interest. As if GameStop got closer to 24 or 25, more of those calls go in the money, so that kind of lights a fuse in that regard. And then yesterday's pump, pretty much everything just went straight up. I had posted a video yesterday with something I'd shared for the X subscribers, and I had talked about uh, just a trade idea with on AT&T. So I'm not sure if you saw that. You might want to take a look at that. So we were able to get you in around $40, and if you got out at the top, it was 100. So the contracts actually moved about 25% within the first 20 minutes, and that was all of this was in the morning prior to uh, any tariff headlines or anything like that. Because I had posted that it was pretty early yesterday. Let me see if I can find it here real quick, and then we'll jump into that GameStop. Let's see here. I know sometimes I post a few too many things. Where is it at here? Yeah, I'd posted that. Let's see, at 10:09, so about an hour and a half after the opening bell yesterday, and it just kind of talked about was kind of targeting AT&T to get back to its 50-day moving average, which was a little over 26. We had just a little 15-minute chart. We're kind of targeting just a little bit. So it was the entry was at when the stock was trading at 25.32, and when we got up to 25.70. The contracts had already moved up 25%, and then they shortly went in the money. So we had seen some premium and just some things that kind of lined up. And it was something we've been trading the stock. My son and I have been long on the stock since 15. We also have some uh, deep in the money $15 calls and then 27 and $30 calls for January 2027. So we got some leaps shares. Today's a dividend day. But was just looking for some momentum on a short dated trade because it was expired April 17th. So for those that caught it, kudos. Yep. And full transparency there. So that is my account. So yeah, just wanted to talk about that. But let's jump over to GameStop. Take a look at that candle yesterday. So we're going to take a look at the daily chart, and then we'll jump into the option flow and try to speed up these videos. That way it gives you a chance to maybe watch them all, or we'll see. I'm still playing with the format. I know I'm long-winded, so I'm going to try to be very clear and concise today. We'll see how it pans out. So GameStop, what, closed 25.40, 25.39. So closed all above, our 50-day and our 200-day simple moving average, as well as the 9 and the 21 exponential moving average. So if you look over there in your top left corner, let's see, the 50-day was at 24.66, the 200-day at 24.81. I had concerns yesterday because the 9-day EMA at 23.69 and the 21 EMA at 23.76. Well, yesterday's low was 23.03, kind of in line with what it's been the last couple of days, but a higher high and just a little bit higher low yesterday. So the volume yesterday, about 18 mil, and then 12 mil the day before. So closed above your moving averages there. Some kind of interesting to see. I had looked also too. Let's see, short volume picked up just a little bit yesterday, about 500,000 more shares. But I did note that the open interest, or pardon me, short interest changed on GameStop. Originally on March 14th, it was 28 million shares. Now it's 47 mil. But that was as of March 31st, and this is only reported every 2 weeks. So my guess is that spiked due to the arbitrage. So as of the 31st, there was still 47.56 million shares sold short. So not sure how that's changed since March 31st, but that was the latest short interest report, which I think it puts it about short interest back on GameStop, I believe, um, puts that back around 11%, maybe. We can look at that at another time here. Oh yeah, so like I said, the short volume yesterday. So we'll see. Let's turn on some extended hour trading just so we can get the current price as I'm actually recording right now. 24.85. So I want to cheat it a little bit. Wanted to see where we're actually at. So just a little under. that $25 gamma level. But let's look at that because we talked about it during this week. We talked about it last year when the stock was kind of sitting at 22, 23, 22, 23. And we talked about, that $25 gamma level could lead to 30 because the option chain last year was stacked, 25, 26, 27, high open interest at 30. So as GameStop moved to 25, those more of those calls began going into the money. So then market makers hedge accordingly, which induces some more buying pressure on the stock, which produced some upside result. Also, we had, Roaring Kitty and a few other things, but that's kind of what happened in that regard. So when you see that gamma level take effect, like yesterday with the pump, you saw that there was a lot of volume on the stock yesterday. The average daily volume is about 6 million shares, and there was about 18 million shares traded yesterday. So that does happen. Now, if we take a look at the call premium yesterday, about 36 mil total premium. I like to see this, a positive net premium at 3.6 mil, which was actually driven by the near $4 million. Not a lot, but it can be with GameStop net call premium. So this was right about the time the tariff news came out, and net call premium was actually flat most of the morning there with a little bump in the put premium. But then as soon as the news came, that's when the call premium really, really took off. You can see here right around the time, like I said, we had that last little dip at 23.81, then the stock rallied to over 25. So a lot of calls and boom, went in the money. Those that maybe had, maybe a bearish thesis and sold some calls, that might have got a little interesting. Those that sold puts, they were like, yes, I made some money. Those that, bought puts, maybe they, they had a bearish thought, with the, because we had talked about the other day how the 50-day moving average had crossed the 200-day, and that's kind of a bearish sentiment. So some might have traded against that. I don't think anybody really expected what happened yesterday. I know Trump said, it's a good time, to buy today. I know the fear gauge was really low. I know I was buying stocks on Monday as they seemed to be incredibly good opportunity because we were at last year's prices. So I figured, well, we'll take another little shot at it. But if we look yesterday, where the highest volume contracts were, let's take a look at this. The $22 puts for this week, they were selling them. They couldn't sell them quick enough. So you see, that's denoted a lot of the volume yesterday, about 46,000 total contracts traded. 32,000 hit the bid, 13,000 filled roughly at the ask. So these were originally, $31 in the morning, drew down to $4. So if you were selling $22 puts on GameStop short dated, you made some money yesterday. And so whoever sold these right here at 13 made some money. More than likely, GameStop, the idea here is that as long as GameStop closes above $22, those puts will expire worthless and they will keep all of that option premium. It's about $600,000 in total premium. So shout out to whoever was selling the $22 puts yesterday. As long as GameStop closes above 22, you're good. And if you've already bought back some of those, or you're going to, you're still going to get a good price based on depending on where you sold. So if we look at that volume yesterday, let's see, 46,000, but not a lot of not much change there in open interest. So a lot of buying and selling, and positions just switching hands, scalping, etc. So no large change to open interest. But let's back it out a few days, see if we can piece together. Let's see. So bid 40,000 total, 22, and open interest didn't change. So yeah. Yeah, the contracts do change hands, so that is interesting. A lot of volume, though. So yeah, but I mean, good idea. If, like I said, if you didn't think the GameStop, or if you thought GameStop would close it above 22, you might have been safe to capture some of that premium, as the IV was 117%. So let's see what else. The $25 calls, they did go in the money for yesterday. We talked about those because when I was talking about yesterday's video during the morning, we were talking about how all the calls had drawn down about 50%, and they got cooked. And yesterday they hit a low of $31, and then we're filling around $90 towards the end of the day. So I mean, that was quite a move from 30 to 90. Yeah, not too shabby on a move like that. See, about 1.3 mil total premium yesterday. Now there was nearly 22,000 contracts traded, but open interest didn't change. So more than likely, a lot of these contracts bought and sold. Bought here, took profits. Maybe someone sold here, sold some here and they think GameStop will close below 25 and they'll buy them back. There's multiple scenarios here, but definitely some day trading within that particular contract just because you see a high volume, but you don't see a lot of change in open interest. So, but that also means that, for example, if I bought a bunch of calls from somebody that closed the position, then the position remains open. The open interest may not change in that regard. So the 25s, though, definitely moved. Yeah, something interesting to see because what had they been? Let's see, the last week. So we talked about them last week also, and they fell down, and then boom, they popped back up. Um, See, I mean, even last week there was opportunity there because I know we talked about because they were filling at $20 because we talked about the traders were piling in on 25 at the 25 level because that was like the highest gamma level. And we'll look at that also. $30 calls, which are out of the money, they came through yesterday as well. A lot of them towards the post tariff news. So you can see a big purchase here coming in for around 20,000. So a little bit of volume yesterday, 13,000 volume, 112,000 premium. Not a lot of change to the open interest there, and they are out of the money short dated with a high IV. I did see these $26 calls yesterday. These are for tomorrow's expiry, about 400,000. Now, what I noted with those yesterday, of the 13,000 volume, you can see open interest increased here. So it went up about 5,500. So I'd say a good portion of this right here carried over into new open interest. Somebody could have sold these here at 20. They might have had to buy some back. Let's see how many was in that candle. About 1,500 they sold maybe. Like, hey, could have been someone taking profits as well from a previous trade. Just because, let's see, yesterday they were up compared to where they've been. So a lot of trading's been going on with the $26 call. But yesterday, this one particular transaction came through for about 4,000. It was 4,010 volume, but 150 grand in premium. It did slap the ask. It was alerted on unusual whales at $38, and they did see a high into the close of 47. So about a $10 move shortly after the alert and the flow came in. And if you have your alert set up with unusual whales, you can catch all of this as well. So here's the actual order right here. Let's see, was it part of a multi-leg trade? It looks like it was. Okay, so someone ran a short iron condor. Unusual whales is really good about detecting volume. What we look for here in these scenarios is volume and size, the time. So what happened is here, even though the $26 calls were purchased right here, 26 at the ask, 23.50s for this week were also at the ask. So basically what they did, they bought the 26 and the 23.50 calls and then sold the 18 and 21.50 puts against the position. So that's how that actually worked in that regard. So premium, so they basically received 28K in premium on the put side and then purchased on the call side. Short iron condor. Let's see here. We can actually visualize that profit and loss, how that might pan out for that particular trader. So pull up our strategy here. It'll kind of give you an idea of how, in that regard, that the price, how the trade would pan out. So below current price, above current price, or flat. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll wait till the market opens, so that way the contracts are priced accordingly because they will change. So that way I get the full representation on the option and loss profit calculator. But that kind of breaks it down. So everything where I was like, oh, the $26 calls, yeah, from first glance, that's just what it looks like. But you got to dig into that actual flow. And some of that we can denote here also quickly on unusual whales. See how 35% under multi, what that means is some of that might have been a multi-leg trade. So that particular trade was a strategy in that regard. So I'm glad we got to see that. That's what makes sense with some of these other puts as well. Looks like $21 puts. They were selling them also. These are for next week. They were filling around $12 a piece. So if you didn't think GameStop would fall below 21 by next week, you could sell those puts as a cash secured put and collect some option premiums. So it looks like that's what a few traders did yesterday. But yeah, take a look. Here's the rest of the volume there. Here's your volume. Here's your expiries, and here's your strikes, so you can see what was actually there. Here's your highest open interest contracts sorted out for you here. Let's see, 30s for next week. And we'll look at this here also on that gamma profile. So the 30s for next week saw about 9,300 volume, about 200,000 in premium, about an increased open interest of 1,100. So these are $30 calls, about 20% out of the money. Did see maybe somebody selling some there, bought here, sold here. Yeah, you never know. Like I said, people day trade, they scalp the contracts, etc. When we scroll down a little bit here, historically, you can see the last few days how the net premium has been green and positive, and how the total premium stacked up. Volatility actually down. Volatility at 72% on Thursday, or pardon me, on Wednesday, and it was 81. So it's been a little bit higher. It's come down a little bit. So that's always cool to see as well. If we look at where the bulk of the money was spent on the contracts yesterday, we'll pull up GameStop here. That way we can sort it out. You can pause, take a screenshot here. Still seeing more of those in the money puts, deep in the money puts relating to arbitrage and or short selling, short covering. You have the $25 calls for June. Let's see here. Did see some more of that. 1.4 mil in premium yesterday. There was about 4,000 volume. Open interest decreased. So I don't know if somebody wound down some of their June calls as they went in the money. That's possible, only because they did surge in price. Somebody could have sold some right here from the buying. Because over the last 7 days, we've had about 7,000 bid volume and about 7,000 asks. So again, like I've talked about before, split between buyers and sellers. In contracts, they trade hands. We've talked about that. So, but it was just something on the top premium here. And I just try to generally look at things for 500,000 or larger for the premium spent. We talked about the $22 puts for this week. Let's see here what else was on there. $25 calls for May 16th. Let's take a look at that. 3,400 volume, open interest, though, kind of a big decrease. 1,700 decreased, even though it looked like we have a very large transaction here. So this could be bought from what somebody closed the position. So if we zoom out here, see if I see, usually what I look for is like a big block where you would have one big sell and then one big buy, or one big buy, one big sell. This one's kind of been the same. 14,000 bid selling, 15,000 ask volume, so kind of matched in that regard. Now yesterday's order around 1,500 so 1,500 volume, about 330,000 in that particular one trade there. An open interest decrease there, so these might have just switched hands, and this could be a new open position as well. Filled at 217, so definitely hit the ask side. Just a single leg, and it was filled electronically. 13, let's see, about 2 p.m. yesterday Central Time. So yeah, there's a trader putting on $25 calls for May, which were in the money yesterday. Just real close. Let's see what the price is right now. Even as we're talking, $24.92. So they're right there at the money. That's not too bad. That could work out. That could work out. So we'll follow that. We'll take a look at that. Like I said, that $25 level was the level. I'm not saying, hey, that's where price is going, like I talked about. They're very modest in that regard. $25 calls also seeing activity for next week. Same scenario. We saw volume, but no change in open interest. Doesn't mean people don't have that feeling of that 25 happening. It's just I didn't see a big change to open interest. So if we look at our open interest, let's look at the largest changes to the open interest this morning, and then we'll pull up that gamma profile as we wrap this up for you. And then we can let you go about your business here. Open interest updates currently pending. Why? Oh, there we go. So here's your largest increases here. Strike expiry is the 26s for this week. 21.5 puts for this week. $30 calls for April 25th. Saw a little bit of increase in OI. $29 calls for April 17th. Saw some increase. $65 calls. That's wild. For April 17th. $35 for July 18th. So yeah, let's look at these 30s real quick for April 25th. 5,000 volume, about 3,000 in new open interest yesterday. So unsure about this in that scenario. Sold, bought back, sold, bought, not sure. So they are out of the money about 20%. Anything like out of the money and kind of short dated like that with an IV of what was the IV? Let me double check it here. 86%, not high but pretty high. That's you got to be cautious. You have to be cautious in that scenario. But I'll let you take a screenshot here if you want to grab your open interest updates. But I want to take a look real quick at the that gamma profile that we had talked about this week and that $25 level because I believe that still remains that highest open interest. So what happens is there as GameStop stays at 25 or moves higher, any of the other calls on the chain then become in the money. So when you think about that, like spot gamma here, I'm going to go ahead and yeah, exactly. That was the highest, like we talked about, that $25 gamma level. And you can see there's some gamma at 26, 7, 8, 9, but then again high at 30. So GameStop moves up anymore. That puts all that many more calls in the money. So this is spot gamma. So basically, for every 1% change in price, about $20 million, $21 million, market makers hedge. And the hedge is about 3.3 million shares at this time. So I want you to pause right here and screenshot this for your learning or your records. This spot gamma exposure. It's the assumed dollar value of gamma exposure that market makers need to hedge per 1% change in the underlying stock. Positive value is long gamma, negative value is short gamma. So basically, GEX assumes that market makers are part of every transaction and that the bulk of their transaction are buying calls and selling puts to investors hedging their portfolios. Investors, large hedge fund, low risk, protect their money by selling calls, buying puts. Market makers provide liquidity to facilitate these trades. So basically, the idea is the more gamma, and earlier this week it was only around 12 million. So gamma's ticked up quite a bit because, well, all these $25 calls are in the money currently, or almost in the money, and were yesterday. So if GameStop moves any higher, I think you know what happens. You've seen it before. I'm not the one to be like, hey, to the moon, but I've been very accurate. I source everything, very truthful and transparent with the data. I have been since I caught the first flow last year when we caught Roaring Kitty loading the $17 calls, even before the 20s. We caught that first move at the end of April ahead of everything, and we caught it with unusual whales. It was one of the, I think that tweet had like 2 million views, one of the most viral posts on my page last year. Because I caught the move ahead of time with the flow. It was just something that jumped out. Boom, Roaring Kitty came back, and well, you know how it went. So if we look at that, the gamma exposure by strike, that highest net gamma is at the 25 level. Then 26, 27, like I said, then accelerates at 30. But it's heavy right here at 25, which I kept saying this week and have always said, that's spicy. In the targeted expiry where the highest net gamma is this week and next week. So it kind of starting to build a little bit, and then into June 20th. So it all depends. You have to watch the volume. You got to watch the stock, watch the overall market, continue to watch the option flow to detect, any potential directional trades. But like I said, that gamma at 25 is spicy, and that's where the stock is at. Same in that regard with the net delta, strong at 20, which is in the money, and 25, and it just starts accelerating. So if I emphasize a big if, GameStop starts to push up or do anything like that, 26, 27, again, more of those calls in the money, but that's also going to then induce more buying. That's going to induce more buying upside pressure as more people might be apt to buy more calls. So it just could be continuous upside pressure, but any change to that is the obvious downside pressure. So something to keep in mind in that regard, but I always like to see a gamma level play out. And I had posted about the gamma. Let's take a look at that. Because I know a lot of you watch these videos, but I know a lot of people don't. I get it. They're long. You don't have the time. They're actually 24 hours in a day. I have got time to make it. People have time to watch it. But I understand they don't want to. But there's a difference between people who are currently trading the way they are and people who want to be better at trading. I'll be 45 years old tomorrow. So let's see, 25 years Yeah, so I've had some time, you know. I've seen the markets, but not everyone has the same time. So I'm just here to share. But yeah, we talked about the GAM. I was trying to find what day's video because I try to drop a new video every day. Yeah, so this was on the 8th. GameStop saw high at 25.02 on Monday. Option traders are piling on the $25 calls for April, May, June, and January. Significant gamma level building at that 25 as we examine the spot gamma. So that's just what we looked at right here. Hey, look at these comments. Appreciate your video breakdowns. Thank you. You're very welcome. Wolf of My Streets, really appreciate the rundown. Hoping today was just a rest for continuing up. Interested to see what the option chain looks like. Whenever we get constant updates on GME from this account, it's evident this stock is about to dump anytime soon. My friend, I put out the option flow to get you an opportunity to make money. The stock's at 25. You look silly. Jokes in them, got millions in shares and $20 calls. So yeah, I love comments on X, aren't they great? So at my age, it's the internet. If I don't know you, it doesn't really matter in that regard. I mean, I have a lot of great friends on here, internet friends that I consider, and I would, break bread with and enjoy a meal with. But, as for trolls, it doesn't matter. Who cares? Waste your time even worrying about it. Get on with your life. Let's take a look at GameStop as we wrap up here ahead of the bell. $24.99, so right there at the $25 gamma level. I love to see it. Gets a little spicy. Hope you enjoyed today's video. And if you watch it all the way through and you have all week, you're a legend. This is the art of the deal. I know, right? That's incredible, too. I had posted as I wrap this up. We're talking about the 5:30 spy calls yesterday for $5 that people were YOLOing on in the morning, and then saw high of 1100 following the tariff headline. So when I posted this at an hour before the closing bell, those calls were $400. They had dropped back down, and I was kind of like, I'm interested in a little zero DTE. So then they went to 737 with just in, I think, a few minutes. Yeah, 10 minutes of the post. They had almost doubled, and you'll love this one. It only got better. Oops, did I back up too far? I did. Oh, here we go. Where did I put? Oh yeah, there you go. 923. So yeah, if you were on the, I know a lot of people were chasing the move yesterday, but if you chased it from 400, he doubled at 900. So that's some crazy zero DTE stuff, but yeah, I don't recommend that. And if you are, please make it be less than 1% of your account. So I do hope you all have a fabulous Thursday. Let's take a look at the S&P real quick as I wrap the video. And I went on talking about them and make it clear, concise. Well, the market's not clear and concise, and neither am I. I can be. But when we're talking about this stuff, I like to talk. And I don't do a script, so 534. 535 on SPY right now. So, yeah. If you watch the video all the way through, why don't you comment down below, $25 gamma level. And I'll certainly know you watched it all the way through. Because I don't know if X is lying to me, but it says only 1% of the people watch my videos. But I see the impressions. Yeah, I don't even know what goes on. But we're still going to make them. Because all I ever ask for is just one like. But I hope you all have a fabulous Thursday. Stay safe out there. You never know what's going to happen. You've seen the market. This has been wild. Because if you look at the weekly candles, you've not seen weekly candles like this on SPY. I've not for quite some time. I just can't remember the last time I've seen something quite like this. The closest thing I can think of, if I zoom out on my weekly, and I don't even know if that's enough, but we're going to go to COVID. We're going to go to March. Even then, I mean, that, yeah, it was a drawdown, but the candles themselves were not like that. Okay? So these are opportunities. Anytime this has been the 200 SMA on the weekly, that has been the buy on the SPY. Now we're in 2015. What I always try to tell people, especially with being 45 tomorrow, my son turns 24 this month also. So his portfolio and investment objectives are different than mine. But we're both in the same regard as we've got time on our side. So if we go back here, Let's just do the monthly. It'll make this a lot easier for perspective. So like I said, I'm 45. I was born in 80. Graduated high school in 98 when you're allowed to have a brokerage. SPY 120. Okay? 120. Over the time since high school I graduated, there has been so many market events. My mom, they almost lost their home. Yes, 2008. So, regardless, the market always seems to find a way. You just got to zoom out. And that all is depending on your risk management, your timeline, your investment objectives. Sure, does anyone like a big drawdown? No. But when the fear gauge goes to 4 and you're not buying stocks, well, maybe buying stocks, investing isn't necessarily for you. Because long term, these things have a way of working out. Because let's be honest, a lot of people have a consensus that Wall Street, not necessarily manipulated or rigged, you can call it whatever you want. There's a lot of money in this thing, okay? Yes, people get hurt along the way, people lose, that's the whole idea. Because with investing, there's always inherent risk. Long term, there's value. It just depends where you're at. And with that, zoom out a little bit. Enjoy your day. And we'll see you around the internet real soon. Have a great day.